of pre-season testing. It's the afternoon, 2 o'clock local time here at the track. We've got 4 hours of running. You can see the lights in the middle of your screen there have just gone green, so expect the pit lane to fire up very soon. My name's Tom Clarkson, and joining me for this first hour in the commentary box, we have Sky Sports F1 analyst Johnny Herbert, veteran, shall I say that, of 161 races and 3 Grand Prix wins.
Don't say that.
Don't say that.
No,
well,
not veteran.
Not a veteran, but it was a lot of races, Johnny. And I tell you what, you probably did a lot of laps around Barcelona in your time, didn't you?
Did indeed. Always been spend our winter in Spain, in fact, we used to do Jerez as well. But Barcelona, yes, one of those, like all the guys even now, they know it like the back of their hand. And we know it's always stable with the weather, and that is why they still come back.
Well, it's slightly cooler today than it has been in previous days, but it's
seasons. So if that car performs as well as probably they're hoping for, then it's not such a bad thing. It's when it goes on track and it doesn't perform, then that becomes a much bigger issue, because you already know you're going to be sort of struggling at sort of the back of the pack again, and that's something that's much harder, because the development is something that you're already starting way behind everybody else to start with. So it's really getting the car on track, but it's got to be a nice car and a good car and an easy car for the guys to drive.
Well, let's hope they've been
let's hope.
hiding a silver bullet that they didn't want anyone else to see. Well, is the car going to get out soon? Let's go and join Natalie Pinkham, who is, I think, down at Williams. Hello, Nat.
Hello, I am indeed. Isn't it lovely to be back? F1 testing. Not Barcelona as you'll know it from the May race, but much warmer than it was last year. Still a little bit wrapped up down here. I tell you what, there's a real sense of anticipation, excitement building. There's so many people in the media centre, so there's that real kind of swell of excitement building up to the start of the new season. But that swell of excitement can be extended to here, Williams, because I've just been told it'll be between 5 and 10 minutes until the car is out. See the screens covering it? Ubiquitous in the pit lane at this time. Oh, Haas has just stopped on track, I'm told, so we'll go up and find out. It's Roman Grosjean. But what I'm going to do is get Bob to swing the camera around to here. Have a look at this flag from Robert Kubica. I mean, if ever there was support for this man, that flag is made up of hundreds of faces of his fans. And many of them have made the trip. I gather, though, that it won't be him in the car this afternoon. If they get the car out, it will be George Russell, but we'll all be excited to see his first foray out onto an F1 track. But that's all from me for now, but we'll come back down here, please do, in about 10 minutes' time.
Well,
red flag session.
Dial us up, Matt, when you see those barricades being moved. Yeah, so the red flag is out. The Haas has ground to a halt, as we saw very quickly. Poor old Roman Grosjean, he'd only just got in the thing.
Yeah, that's those teething problems I was talking about. Yes.
Actually, they've had a few issues, because actually the Haas rolled to a halt this morning as well. So clearly a bit of reliability going on there. But before we move on from Williams, deep-rooted problems back at base. Does this whole delay point to that? I mean, let's move on and talk about other stuff after this point. Paddy Lowe, is he the man? Claire wasn't apportioning blame.
He's under pressure, isn't he? Under pressure.
I can't get away from the fact that when he joined that team, Williams had the 4th fastest car in Formula 1.
Sure, yes.
And now, it might be coincidence.
And coming from where he was coming from, with the knowledge that you would expected him.
I don't know what we're meant to read into that.
No, I don't know what, but no, it's not. And it's one of those...
Doesn't look good on paper, does it?
It looks very poor on paper, but you would hope with the experience he's had, at McLaren, for example, at the same time, all that sort of is a situation you can...
Really followed up this year to put together a proper title bid. How much of an extra challenge might you face for him?
For Valtteri?
Yeah.
I'm excited for Valtteri. I think it takes time to really dig your roots into a new team. It's not an easy process, and he's been an invaluable part of the last couple of years. And the growth has been, I think, has been amazing, and he's really helped keep us stabilized in terms of positive energy within the team. So he'll continue on that form, but I'm sure he'll be, naturally reflects after each season. He will want to be stronger this year, and as a team, collectively, we'll support him in every way we can. And me and him have a very, very good working relationship, so we actually do talk about things with the car. We work together, which I don't know if I've ever experienced that in the past. We actually really do work together. We talk to each other about things. That will continue, and yeah, we're hoping that we have a strong team, a strong year together.
There, but the pictures you're looking at now, that is the Williams garage. And Natalie Pinkham, are you down there?
Yeah, huge moment for George Russell because he is out in the F1 car for the very first time, and I've just been told by the team that he'll do one install lap and then come back into the garage and they'll work on the car, check everything out for another 45 minutes or so, and then hope to really clock up the laps this afternoon. But yeah, a big moment for both him and the team. They are finally out.
Now, Natalie, I've got a question for you.
Please do.
Can you ask someone in the team if there was one particular aspect of the car that was delaying it? Was there an issue with... where was the issue? Why was it delayed?
Right, TC, I'm going to go and ask them that very question right now. I did try to get an answer from Paddy Lowe a little earlier, and Paddy, who you know is just one of the nicest guys in the paddock, absolutely had his head down and said he couldn't even spare 2 minutes. So I'm going to ask him again at the end of the day, but I'll go and ask someone else now and see if I can get your answer.
Good on you. Thanks, Nat. Thanks, Nat. Well, look at that car. It's the first time we've seen it. First of all, do you like Williams in light blue, Johnny?
Yeah, I like it.
It's distinctive.
Very distinctive. Yeah, I think it worked. It's great to see George out there, though, isn't it, as well? Brilliant to see another Brit having a go in a historic British team like that. It's rocket sort of splattered all over the side of it. So yeah, it's great to see the car do a whole lap without sort of trucking into a hole on that installations lap. So that's a positive thing, let's say, to the start of their testing.
Yeah, and it's completed a lap. Imagine if it
comes
out halfway round.
Yeah, that
would not have been good.
That would have been not
because of course we ought to say that they were meant to be doing a filming day. Each team is allowed to do a handful of laps on the pretense that it's a filming day. A lot of them use it as a shakedown before coming to Barcelona. Williams were meant to be doing that on Saturday, so they didn't even get that opportunity. That is the very first lap of the Williams.
Yeah, it's the first time I've seen it. You can see the barge balls there at the side, the new sort of smaller, further forward shifted barge balls. Very different, very sort of plain. I only saw the Force India. There's a lot more detail on the side of that Force India. So again, a slightly different philosophy. You see Lewis bounce off track, going into the final chicane.
He's done a bit of that. He's done a bit of that this week, finding the limits. But I mean, so the bottom two drivers so far today, JH.
No, the car is so bad.
Oh my goodness. When they win their 6th consecutive double, I'd quite like to take a photograph of that and show it to Toto Wolff, the team boss. But look, we've talked about Ferrari. Let's talk about the man who's at the top of the timesheets at the moment, Kimi Räikkönen. You spent a lot of time at Sauber in your career. Now, it's changed since then. Primarily because of the wind tunnel that actually Kimi bought them, because McLaren had to pay to get him out of his contract from 2002. So it's kind of Kimi's wind tunnel. He's now getting the benefit of it. But anyway, you're looking at the man on screen now. First of all, what can this team do this year? Well, a bit more money coming from Alfa Romeo. Close affinity relationship. Can they score podium?
I think there is an outside chance of that happening. I think you've still got the big three. I would be surprised if they will be able to sort of pierce that bubble and get themselves sort of amongst the top three, as I said. But I think I tell you what, the speed that they were able to find last year was pretty impressive, to be honest, compared to where they were at the beginning of the season. They were absolutely nowhere, and it really started to come together exactly when that sort of relationship started to blossom in a positive way. So that seems to be something I'm sure he's going to carry on. He looks straight away very competitive as well. And you've got Kimi that, getting that race win in Austin, I think for a driver is a very powerful, positive thing that you can carry through. His character, and I know him a little bit out of the cockpit, away from the Grand Prix circuit.
That sounds
absolute fruitcake, and it's dangerous, but it's dangerously brilliant. And it's just wonderful to see. He lets his hair down, and he just has a lot of fun. But that's what happens in that cockpit. that's where all that comes out, which sadly we don't see enough of. We see him when we do the lawnmower racing, then it comes out. It's really funny. When he's in a situation where he knows it's just about fun, then he will come out and be a completely smiley. Kimi Räikkönen, after we did, I think this year, what do you want to do next time? And he wanted to do motocross. But that's him, and he would do it, and he's a rarity on that one. I'm not very good at motocross.
His son, aged 4, Robin, is already doing motocross.
Right, okay.
And he's asked Daddy for he's asked Daddy for a go-kart. He told me this yesterday. Can I tell you a quick story about Kimi Räikkönen?
Do.
I was with him yesterday, and he was telling me about the 2013. I'm quoting him when I say, yeah, that was the year I went off the rails. Bahrain Grand Prix finishes second. Has a few drinks back at the hotel. This is all he was telling me on the record, so I'm not saying anything that he didn't want out there. And he went on a 16-day drinking binge.
Yep.
Stopped drinking in the early hours of the Thursday morning prior to the Spanish Grand Prix next weekend. Next race, finished second. And he's utterly convinced that living a life like that has not affected his driving one iota. Discuss. Did you live like that, Johnny?
No.
but
it did work. I heard a Spa when he was at Ferrari, and he had the same thing. They were trying to stop him, took stuff out of the minibar in his hotel room and everything else, and they found him in the morning in a bit of a state, but he went out and won the race. It is weird how, for him, that works. For other people, of course, that doesn't work because of concentration issues that sort of come with it sometimes. But for him, it seems to heighten his sensitivity.
Almost is it a reset button? In the way that Lewis has to dash around the world, seeing A-list celebrities, meeting up with people and having his photograph taken. That's his reset, and maybe Kimi's is just having a bunch of fun with his mates.
Yeah, I think the bunch of fun with his mates is a very important part of the world that Kimi comes from, and we know, he turns up, everybody sees it, that he's not very wanting to be in front of the camera, but as soon as that helmet goes on, the visor goes down, those lights go out, you've got this incredible talent that is still there, even in these latter years that he's at the moment, still in those, was it 37, is it?
No, he turns 40 this
40.
year.
It's 40.
He's 40. I'm trying to convince him life begin before he didn't really believe.
Well, there you go, the Nigel Mansell effect.
Yeah, exactly. He's got another world championship in him, isn't it?
But that was the question you asked a bit earlier on about motivation with Lewis. It's motivation that keeps Kimi wanting to go around. Sometimes I look at it, I go, why do you want to just hang on? Why don't you achieve what you achieved? You had that lovely win in Austin last year, and then sort of say, right, I'm done.
The timing would have been good, wouldn't it?
But it's a very hard thing sometimes for a driver to say, when is the right time to stop.
Except one thing, it's looking at it from his perspective, I assume he's earning a very good salary again.
Yeah.
And it's a bit different this time because he lives half an hour up the road from Hindhill.
Yeah.
So he can drive there and back, whereas back in the day, whether it was McLaren or Ferrari, it was always having to get on a plane. Now he can just, it's almost like a 9-to-5 job for him now, isn't it, going to the factory. So I think it's a little easier. And I sensed a little, he felt a bit more liberated being in a smaller team, less pressure. He's going to enjoy these last couple of years, I think.
Yeah, I think he is. Bert Zender is still there, and I know he's very, very friendly with Bert. So even that relationship within the team is going to be very positive for Alfa Romeo itself, but of course for Kimi at the same time. And you're right, I think it is a lot to do with the comfort factor with Kimi. You probably don't get a comfort factor when you're racing at somewhere like Ferrari, but I think at the end of the day, it's a good position for him to be in these latter years, and that 40 sort of coming up, as you said.
Well, let's take a look at the car on the screen now. Daniel Ricciardo getting his first bit of mileage. Start by talking about this racetrack. You said at the top of the hour, this is a brilliant track for testing a car that is good here. Just talk us through this track.
Yeah, that turn 4, which is actually the corner before he's just gone round there. such a long one and very, very difficult. And then you've got this sort of left and right flick, not much to it. This brilliant sort of flat out right hander at the top of the hill where it used to be a sort of bit of a lift, but it's changed over the years. Then this long straight, back straight into this final sector. A little bit sort of like a go-kart track. But this left-hander really does show if the car has a very good back end. And you can see there's no sort of moving around. And that seems to be quite settled. And it has shown to be a very, very well planted rear end on this Renault, and it's changed the direction through that final chicane. A little bit slower than I've seen, I think, from the likes of the Ferrari, but that sort of last flat out right hander taken very, very easily. But of course it's this long straight where they're about 320 odd kilometers down towards that turn one, so braking stability is very, very important. Change your direction, a little bit downhill, turn in right, then you've got to flick it left, and that change of direction you've really got to keep you probably in the middle of the road to turn right through this turn three, long right hander. And again, this was always my favourite turn four, because the turning is very important to stability, but it's so long on the exit, you're trying to get on the power and you have to use as much as the road as you can see being used there. And then that final downhill left hander where we started the lap earlier on.
There,
Great
ladies
track.
and gentlemen, is a lap with Johnny Herbert. You might have noticed on the straights that the DRS on the Renault is not working because Ricardo had while you were at home on the train and coming back from London, whatever you were doing yesterday, Johnny. Ricardo had his DRS broke, top flap of the rear wing came off halfway down.
Yeah,
and so very lucky not to hit the barrier.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think
which I have done.
A precaution at the end here.
No, it was actually where the board is there. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I went turn left when Stewart and the wing collapsed. I think it was the main plane, if I remember correctly. And he turned sharp left, and I think the impact on the wall on the left was 180 or something or other. And it was just in front of Damon Hill, actually. And as I slid backwards down towards turn one, the back was starting to lift and fly, and it just caught the wall, which then brought it back down again. If it hadn't caught the wall,
I don't think you would have landed.
The thing would have just exactly.
Now the folks at home can't see what we're pointing at, so our comms
about
box
halfway
is at
down,
the top end of the pit
exit.
lane. And at the pit exit is where it happened.
Yeah. 180.
That's a big shunt, isn't it?
It's not. It was a nice soft one because it didn't actually do sort of much, but the actual initial impact was pretty high. So again, that's back in '99. So this is where these wings are always tested to the absolute max. Again, that seemed to be sort of more related to the DRS that we saw with the Renault. Maybe back then.
Johnny, there's so much I could talk to you about. Will we talk about 1999? We want to talk about testing 2016.
Sure.
What are we? 2016, 2019. But I want to talk Malaysia 99, that wonderful racing track. But anyway, let's look at what we've got on track. I think we're following the matte red Ferrari SF90, named up. The team is 90 years old this year. What are you pointing out, Johnny?
Well, you remember this happened the other day with Lewis behind Kvyat. And it seems to be the same thing. I think Lewis was doing, which may be the same thing with Vettel. We'll have to wait and see if he tries to pass it. I wonder if he's trying to find out what happens following another car.
Very good point.
Because this is something that these guys haven't really experienced yet. And I think it looks to me that's exactly what he's doing at the moment.
Something
I think you would do that because you would want to know when you get to Australia within a pack, what does the car do? How does it react? You know what it's done before, and we can't get very close. So this is maybe something they're just trying to work out. I think that's exactly what Lewis was doing, and I reckon this could be exactly the same thing.
How very interesting. Something you do while you're doing 169 laps.
Yeah, exactly. As
going round and round and round.
Keep on learning.
It's an interesting thing. So they've come up with, it's wider front wings, bigger, deeper, higher rear wings as well to try and allow the cars. What you're seeing here, Kvyat in front. Vettel slowed down to give himself a bit of distance. So what I'm trying to think like he's thinking. He's thought, I've learnt enough. Now I want clean air to carry on with my program because it's destroying the front tyres or whatever. But Johnny, here's the thing. So we've come up with all these new regulations to improve overtaking. Yet, in following the Renault, the one thing I'm about to point out we're not going to see, but you've got this gaping hole now when the DRS opens. It's the aperture is 2 centimetres bigger than it was last year. So I think overtaking is going to be a doddle anyway, and you didn't need probably to be able to run closer to the cars in front.
Yeah, the DRS change, I'm not sort of 100% why we needed it more than what we had before.
I guess it's another tool that the FIA can use.
Well, but we had a tool anyway, didn't we?
Yeah.
Why make it a bigger tool? You don't want to make it silly overtaking,
No.
do we? There's a lot of people that say it's silly enough, as it is. But the one thing I would say about DRS is, in my experience, I remember going back. I think it was 99 again, following Fisichella in the Benetton, or Renault as it was then. And I had hardly any slipstream effect at all. And I think there's an element that the development of that has changed so much. If I go back to the original turbos, when they had their sort of 1400 qualifying
Massive rear wing.
yes, exactly, massive rear wing, massive brakes and everything. Everything was just big because they didn't care about drag. There was no conscious thought about what drag could do, because all they used to do was turn up the boost, throw in a bit more fuel, get 1500 horsepower qualifying, and it didn't matter. That's completely changed now, where it's all about slickness. So the effect that you would have of slipstreaming, I think, compared to when I was doing it in the 90s, and I remember doing it in Formula 3, the same thing, is way less. So I think if you took it off, the overtaking would be minimal, absolutely minimal. So at least it gives and brings back the slipstream effect, which did the same thing anyway back in the, you did the 70s, when people harp on about all the good old days of the sort of the 70s. But they created such a big hole that was where that slipstreaming effect and overtaking came from. And again, that's just, to me, is just putting it back into effect. But I don't know why it's gone more. I suppose we're going to have to wait and see exactly what difference this potentially makes to that overtake. I don't want a simplistic overtake. They've got to work for it.
Well, back in the day, it was you'd plan it 5 corners in advance, wouldn't you? Anyway, let's talk about this man now and this team, Red Bull Honda. Are you excited about them?
I am.
Pray tell, why?
Well, I think it was the right choice with the change of the power unit. We know the history of the Honda not being quite where it needed to be for McLaren, and I think it's improved over the last 18 months quite a lot. Last year, I know there was a big chunk of change that sort of came their way latter part of the season. They were able to sort of have a look at the data through, obviously, the Toro Rosso, and they wouldn't be just taking the Honda just for the sake of taking it. They would have looked at what the Toro Rosso was doing, and then they would then analyse it to then say, right, is it worth doing it this year, as in for 2019, or maybe leaving it another year for 2020? And they obviously think it's better than what they had before.
And it wouldn't have been a financial decision, would it? The prospect of free power units wouldn't have been a factor for Red Bull because they've got the cash. It was based purely on.
There'll still be a little bit of that one. Yeah, Matashit's, is a shrewd old businessman. He wouldn't just sort of say, no, forget about that. Honda, keep that. No, he's not going to do that. But it's more, you know how these guys work. I think everybody out there watching knows that they're racers, and they will try and do everything they possibly can to take it to the big teams like Ferrari and Mercedes. And this is that opportunity that it's the very early days of this partnership, and I'm sure it's only going to grow stronger. You would expect Honda to get stronger, and they have shown glimpses of that, especially last season when I remember it passed. I think it was a Sauber, where it obviously had a Ferrari-powered unit, and it passed in Mexico, if I remember correctly. So it was something that it did show speed. So that's a positive thing. And now I hope that this is what can go together, as we see Sebastian catching up, Vettel once again following him. But I think the potential is very good.
But interesting too that Honda are going to get twice the amount of information now, because of course they've got Toro Rosso and Red Bull Racing, so it's going to drive everything forward. And you could very well see something actually that someone in the team alluded to this morning, is that you could see Toro Rosso being scapegoat, but just being used to drive. If there's a power unit upgrade, put it on this one first.
As we saw last year, changing a lot.
But and then if it's any good, put it onto the big team, of course. And of course, it's interesting too that Kvyat here, who's back, third time lucky in the Red Bull family, but of course he was Ferrari's, what do we call him, test driver, simulator driver.
Yeah, he did. He did a lot of work for Seb. Yeah.
So he will know Vettel well. Do you know, I think it's a masterstroke by Toro Rosso to get Kvyat back in. I think because this is a simulator.
I didn't have a choice. There weren't any other
Well,
choices.
there's that.
But yes, I like him. He is quick.
And he's bringing information about the Ferrari
as well.
simulator.
Yeah, true. Yep.
He knows how Maranello
which
works.
we
There'll
know
be little
Red Bull
things.
like that.
Yeah. So
that side of things. Yeah. He's a talent, this boy. I like him a lot. He's. I tell you what's interesting. When he was racing and having all his incidents with, Carlos Sainz and Silverstone on the first lap, I remember saying to him, I said, you can't get involved on the first lap like you're getting into. I said, if you lose 2 or 3 positions, lose 2 or 3 positions on the first lap, then build it up. Then once the confidence starts to really come, then you can start taking those calculated risks. At the moment, don't do it. And he said to me, I'm okay. And I think the okay was because Franz Tost likes him as well. So I think he was almost going, it's okay. Helmet Marco, it's okay. But there's only a certain point, it is okay. And it got to that point where they went, it ain't okay. So there was a little bit of, he was immature, personally. And I tell you what was really interesting, about 2 weeks ago, I went with Rachel and met him in the Dorchester for a cup of tea. Very different, but a very, very different, grown up. Different, completely different demeanour about him as well. Still talk, as we are, but it was just how his body language was completely different than before. It was almost, yes, just grown up. Yeah. Just more grown up. So I hope that is something that in the cockpit, helmet on, it will bring out the talent that we saw, fighting with, in China with Sebastian on that first lap, brilliant bit of racing, actually doing very well against Ricciardo at the same time. Speed is there, for sure. But it's just all the other little silly mistakes that sort of will too often, to be honest. And you can't do that. He was very lucky to sort of be kept on as long as he did at Toro Rosso because he was making so many silly mistakes, especially on the first lap. So I hope he has grown up. I think I felt he has, and I think that is going to be a good thing for us because he's exciting, to be honest. He's different. He's a feisty little character, and that's good to see.
So often you don't know what you've got until you've lost it. And maybe that year away from racing will have helped complete the process of growing up. Something I noticed with Max Verstappen, actually, I was with him a few weeks back at the FIA Steward Seminar in Geneva. Yeah. Blown away by his maturity.
Oh, he's shaken off Jos. He's got the Jos out of him. Is that what it is?
He's got But look,
get his dad's.
But look, just look at so we're looking at Carlos Sainz here. You see his barge balls. This isn't live. You'll see replay in the top left-hand corner of the screen. This is from this morning. So McLaren's slow getting out, and that's interesting too. So he loses the barge balls, and it really does affect the balance of the car. To the extent that he then goes.
Much more than we've probably seen last year, or in the last couple of seasons. We've seen a bit of damage go on, and it hasn't actually affected that much. So yeah, interested that, one, they had the issue with the brake, and that's probably just because they're a little bit too on the limit for probably lightness, typically. So they're going to have to make them a little bit stronger, a little bit more carbon fibre slapped on there. But it's the effect. Yeah, the effect was quite a big effect there.
It was a
big effect. Yeah. I tell you what was interesting as well was sort of it was good to see finally going out on track with the Toro Rosso was all these spins album where he had that sort of spin on the outlap. We saw it with Kimi at the same time. And it's all, and I know, was it Roman sort of said about because it's the blankets, isn't it? They actually come out much cooler now. So once again on track, they're even cooler again.
And cool conditions at the start of the day don't help.
Yeah. But you sort of know that. It's really, I find it quite amazing. You know it's going to be quite edgy on the first lap. So why there's this expectation in their heads to be, it should be up to sort of maximum tire temperature on the first lap when we go out, I think is silly. I think it's just part and parcel. You've got to be thinking about where you are, what the temperatures are, what the tyres are, the new tyres that you don't know fully how they react. Why you have to go out there and sort of spin up. I've done it myself personally, yes, but I know how edgy they are. The spin's simple, yes. The spin is simple. You can't do anything about it.
All the top guys were doing it as well.
Yes. No, I know. There is an edge, but I think sometimes it's in your head that we sort of had a higher temperature blankets before. So actually, when you go out there, all your body feelings of what you had before and it's sort of so easy to forget what the difference or what the change is to what probably the biggest change is actually to the tyre itself, and then it becomes, you know, I think we've all experienced sort of being on ice, getting that lock-up, and once that lock-up comes, then the car will just go out of control. They're very, very similar. It's like a knife, and it's just basically we just fall one side or the other. You'll be damn lucky to stay in the middle, just if you just go 1% over the limit. They're very, very tricky, and of course all the torque that the modern engines have got as well. And it's something you sort of forget, you sort of take for granted. It's almost these guys, and I remember when I raced, it was like I was driving down to Tesco's. That was the feel.
That's why you earned the big bucks, wasn't it, Johnny?
Yeah. What, driving down to Tesco's
Yeah.
as the delivery man. Yes, but it is how you slow everything down. But of course, that's when you become sort of sometimes a bit sort of blasé and overconfident with it, especially when it's a test at the same time. So they were. There was nothing to them. I think, you know, even with the blankets being a bit cooler, so what? Just give it another lap.
So Vettel there, we just saw a little lock-up from him. He's on a long run at the minute. Interesting that he's not trying to get past Kvyat. He goes right up under his rear wing, and then he doesn't go and overtake. He then drops back, has another go for a few laps, slows it down. So this is a long run from him. It's interesting that we're seeing the drivers set their quickest times in the morning. You said at the top of the hour that the thing about this place is the quick times are at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day, but we haven't really seen them have a go at the end of the day so far this week. Maybe we'll see that next week when they start turning the wick up a little bit on the engines.
Maybe, but they also don't want to show too much as well. You know, you could find out there was somebody I saw the other day, someone's tweeting, go out there, put the softs on. You put the softs on, and of course you're just going to show maybe a ridiculous amount of speed. And of course then everybody realises, oh, hello, we've got to sort of raise our game. So sometimes you're not going to show, when you're in the, which looks like the situation for Ferrari, they've got a good car, it's quick, but don't show too much. As soon as you show too much, someone like Mercedes, they're going to go, right, we need to ramp things up before we get to tomorrow.
Johnny, you're confusing me. When you talk about the soft tyre, you're confusing me, because this week and next week we're talking about C1.
Yes,
C2,
there you go.
C3.
Soft.
What is soft? Oh, C4. Okay.
Exactly. I'm going to just stick to as it will be in the season. It will be soft, medium, and wonderfully hard.
Now, as we look at Carlos Sainz, we saw the replay earlier of him having his barge board issue, but that's obviously now back on. Quick, through turn 9, as something else has just flown off the car by the looks of things. Wonder what that was. Looked like it was on the left-hand side of the car.
It's got to be related to all that barge board stuff that's down the side there. Can't see anything flapping around. So
what's come off? So he runs pretty wide over the exit
it's on the
turn,
right,
doesn't he?
I think. It's on the right side.
Oh, it was on the right side of things.
Yeah,
it was
on the
right.
side,
It's barge boards again.
Yeah. Walk on, Father.
Boy.
They're not listening.
Well, look, while he makes his way back to the pits as he comes underneath our comms box to go and stick another barge board on, one thing we will do is just let's run through the time. So far we've now got 3 hours and 4 minutes of this third day of pre-season testing to go. Top of the timesheets, Kimi Räikkönen in the Alfa Romeo with a 1:17.7, which is 4/10 faster than any other lap we've seen so far this week. Vettel is the only Ferrari driver out, he's P2. Then comes Hulkenberg, who did the morning in the Renault, and Ricciardo is in the car now. 4th fastest Kvyat, 5th is Verstappen, 6th Fittipaldi in the Haas. He's had a bit of running this week. Kevin Magnussen stopped early yesterday because of a headrest issue, and he carried on this morning, and then of course Grosjean jumped in the car at lunchtime and then had that issue. And just to quickly finish off, Sainz P7, Grosjean 8, Perez 9, Bottas 10, Hamilton 11 and Ricciardo 12. Well, let's head back down into the pit lane and find Nat. Where are you?
Williams, I'm having to resort to clandestine means of getting at information. Is peering behind the screens. Not a huge amount to tell you though, Tom, other than the fact that communications officer at Williams has told me it wasn't one single, but rather a whole string of them that had the kind of domino effect on stopping them coming out until today. But I can tell you right now, they're fiddling around with the suspension, the nose is off. They are hoping to get it back out in about 20 minutes' time. Have a look at these, though. Oh,
Hey, Nat, he's behind you. He's behind you. He's behind you. George. Come on, George.
quickly, just say hi.
Good afternoon.
Here he is, the man of the moment. So you've done it. You're out in an F1 car.
Yeah, no, it's nice. Obviously only an install lap so far, but it felt pretty surreal to drive it for the first time.
And are you confident about getting back out soon?
Oh yeah, definitely. This is the normal procedure. Just come in, do an install lap, make sure everything's all good, nothing's leaking, and so far so good.
So now get back in there. I don't want to get you in trouble. Thanks, George. Okay. I was going to show you these blowers, but that was much more interesting.
Well, show us the blowers.
Oh, okay, show the blowers. Come on, show the blowers. Look at this. Oh, they're quite heavy, aren't they? Swanky new things.
It's not your
They've
average
obviously
leaf
put
blower, is it?
No, it's not. They've
Big
obviously
hair
put their
dryer.
new sponsorship to good use and bought some nice new blowers. There you go.
Thanks for that, Nat. Well, let's join Lewis Hamilton now back on track as he goes through turn 9. Talk to us about turn 9, Johnny.
Well, it's just one of those corners that really tests the driver. I think it's a fun corner, I think, more so. And of course, when it's a fun corner